Hello everyone and welcome to a Vampire the Masquerade lore dive into Clan Hecata. With Bloodlines 2 being released, I wanted to talk about the clans within the world of darkness. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions, and of course, if I miss anything, feel free to comment down below. Necromancers, grave robbers, the Clan of Death, Clan Hecata are the newest clan within Kindred Society and are made up of multiple bloodlines to form what is now a single clan due to recent events. The need they have for survival is a tad ironic, being a clan built on death and how close they came to it. Their fascination with death in recent years almost became a first-hand experience. Though there are up to 10 bloodlines that make up the Hecata and more offshoots of the families that make up the lesser families, there are a few that truly represent the Hecata as a whole. As they say, death always comes in threes, and with the symbol they use for their newfound clan, the three-faced mask is no different, representing death, decay, and rebirth. The three self-designated Big Three lineages are the Giovanni as the heart, the Harbingers of Ashur as the skeleton, and the Samedi as the spirit. Things being represented in threes, though, doesn't stop there, as the three stages of death are represented by the Cappadocians as death, the Giovanni as decay, and the newly formed clan Hecata represents rebirth. The three periods of great change for the clan is the Feast of Folly with the Cappadocians, the Promise of 1528 with the Giovanni, and the family reunion representing the Hecata as a whole. The Hecata disciplines are Auspex, a power granting a vampire supernatural senses, Fortitude, a power granting toughness, and Oblivion, which provides the Hecata's staple abilities of necromancy. Though Oblivion is also shared by Clan La Sombra, which allows for shadow manipulation, and though within the tabletop a player could mix and match with necromancy and the obtenebration abilities, the Hecata just deal in the necromancy side of things. There are also some optional rules that allow for what bloodline you're playing within the Hecata, so the disciplines vary depending. The Hecata Antediluvian is technically no one, due to the clan not really deriving from a single bloodline, but the Cappadocians had an antediluvian with Cappadocius, which would be the closest thing. He was sired in the first city, chosen for his intellect and his interest in death and everything surrounding it. When asked about his origins, he would only say that he was from Cappadocia, and most assume his point of origin being that of Anatolia, a region of Turkey known as Cappadocia. When embraced, this was the name he took up, and the only name anyone knows him by, even Cain and the second-generation vampires. Some say he goes by no true name because he himself no longer knows it. In his days as a mortal priest and a man of faith, and as such dealt with death and the spirits of those who had gone. The wraiths, some who he had made several enemies of, and when embraced, felt those spirits cling to his spirit, trying to prevent him from returning to his body. It's said that they partially succeeded, and part of Cappadocius never returned from the underworld and his soul fragmented, causing his fascination for the dead, and he didn't even realize it. Eventually, though, Augustus Giovanni would later diablerize Cappadocius on April 4th, 1444, as Cappadocius was willing to let his child commit such an act. Perhaps knowing from the start this would happen, perhaps the fascination of death drawing him into his final death. Thus, Augustus Giovanni became the self-anointed antediluvian of Clan Hecata. The Hecata clan bane is that of the Painful Kiss, though it was mostly just for the Giovanni side of the clan, with the Samedi and Cappadocians looking like rotting corpses, and the Nagaraja needing to consume flesh. Their banes have now been delegated to that of flaws, which a player could pick up optionally for that added flavor of the type of Hecata they're playing as. The Painful Kiss, however, is that instead of biting and feeding on a victim who feels a rush of ecstasy, they instead feel excruciating pain when being fed on. Alternatively, within the tabletop, they can choose decay, and thus exude an aura of pure entropy, causing everything to suffer at a gradual but noticeable pace, including their own havens, as the very walls begin to rot, resources such as money or equipment turning to dust or rusting over, becoming faulty, and even retainers turning sickly or showing signs of age, as they're drained of life. The Hecata clan compulsion is that of morbidity, as a morbid curiosity overtakes them and urges them to study individuals around them for signs of illness, frailty, or impending death. Though this compulsion was from the cults of the Blood Gods book, when they were first able to be played, but now, in the player's guide, the compulsion is a bit different, by instead just needing the vampire to move something from life to death, or vice versa. Those embraced by the Hecata generally vary. As we mentioned, the clan is made up of many bloodlines, and as such, each bloodline has a different way of selecting who they wish to embrace. For instance, the Giovanni do not embrace outside of the family, nor without permission, as in 1444, Claudius Giovanni embraced a non-Giovanni peasant girl named Mariana as a distraction when Claudius was attacked by soldiers. And for 500 years, she was a constant embarrassment for the clan, though the only outsider to have been embraced who survived longer than a month. The Cappadocians, on the other hand, choose scholars or other intellectuals for their embrace, and to often desensitize the new childer, would bury them or inter them in crypts so they could acquire first-hand familiarity with death. The Nagaraja would embrace those who already had an intense interest in death, but not in causing it, those who are well educated as doctors or having medical knowledge. And the Samedi are very similar to the Nagaraja and Cappadocians, desiring those who are more intellectual in death. They all share the same interest in death, though, aside from the Giovanni, who treat it more like a reward and a promotion for good service within the family. As mentioned before, the clan of the Hecata would be short to tell as they are newly formed, though each bloodline of theirs has their own history to tell. The Cappadocians arguably being the start, with Cappadocius not being interested in wars or politics, mostly kept to himself, not engaging in politics or the power struggle other kindred have. After the flood, the Cappadocians began with just Caius coin, and with Caius began to study mortal civilizations to understand death. Later, before, or perhaps even in the early 10th century, the Feast of Folly happened, a great gathering of the entire Cappadocian clan by the founder himself, Cappadocius. The Feast of Folly was to address the human complaints in Kaimakli, as his growing childer had led to population crisis. He would then question the 12,000 vampires that made up the entirety of all Cappadocians, asking them questions such as, "Who among you cannot read or write?" Or "Who among you does not pursue the answer to the great enigma?" Those who answered poorly were sent deep within the mountain, to which Cappadocius sealed them in, condemning them to cannibalism and then torpor. It became a defining moment, one that created a divide in the clan, but defined the structure of the clan. The Giovanni, however, started off as merchants under the name Lovinus in the Roman Empire, but once Rome fell, they became the Jovians and maintained the independence of their home in Venice, furthering their own research and developing new paths of necromancy. Not until the year 1005 did Augustus Giovanni get brought into Clan Cappadocian, being directly embraced by Cappadocius himself. The Samedi were thought to originate in the Caribbean with their strong ties to the region's voodoo practices, with some thinking they're just a vile Giovanni experiment gone wrong, while others thinking they're an offshoot of the Nosferatu, due to the Samedi's corpse-like appearance. The start of their vampirism is unknown for sure. And finally, the Nagaraja started off in magical traditions of the Chakravanti, a fellowship of Indian death mages, almost like that of Clan Tremere. The Idran were the strongest necromancers among them, fighting in the Himalayan War. However, they sought enlightenment of deathlessness beyond death, and went to Egypt following legends of true immortals. Meeting the immortal Inohatan, were given the secrets of the spell of life, but could not fully comprehend it, and so combined parts of the spell with their own magics to create their own version. In return, they were to be guardians of Enoch, but this wasn't enough against the followers of Set who sought Enoch. Needing more power, they collected blood from their Setite enemies and turned themselves into vampires, becoming the first Nagaraja. Though each bloodline has a rich history, I feel like I'd have to cover each one individually so as to not leave out anything important, sadly. Returning to the clan as a whole, though Clan Hecata's history is brief, it's one that is formed out of necessity. The The Second Inquisition being one such reason, as the Giovannis took large amount of losses, forcing the clan to regroup in Italy. The other being that of the Promise of 1528 is nearing its 500-year time limit. The Promise of 1528 being the treaty between the Camarilla and the Giovanni, formally accepting them as the successors of the Cappadocians, along with the fact that Augustus Giovanni, the self-made antediluvian and patriarch of the Giovanni, disappeared along with a devastating assault from the Harbingers of Skulls, the last remnants of the Cappadocian clan. Things were looking bleak for the Giovanni family. The negotiations were called for and a conference were to be made between Clan Giovanni, the Cappadocian, and any related bloodlines such as the Samedi, the Harbingers of Skulls, the Nagaraja, and the Lamia. Family reunion was a combination of strategic removal of high-profile elders and burying of ancient grudges, along with the unknown fate of Augustus Giovanni, causing an astronomical amount of ghosts to be set loose upon the world. Some think this is due to his death during the family reunion, while others believe it's due to him fleeing and releasing them. No matter Augustus's fate, the family reunion worked, and agreements were made to form the newest clan around the 21st century, around the 2010s to 2020s, making it quite the infantile clan. The formation of the Hecata, though, does spark some concern within the Camarilla, though, as they are worried about having little to no control over them once the Promise of 1528 expires in 2028. Now, within the modern Knights, things look brighter in the moonlight for the Clan of Death and their necromantic practices. But vampires have long memories for who slighted them, and though an agreement was made, who's to say that agreement won't crumble to dust much like the bones in the crypts, where the spirits of the ones past may come back to haunt them. I'd be curious to hear what interests you in the Hecata, and some of the characters within the lore and tabletop. Is it their mastery over death, giving them that classical necromancer feeling, or perhaps how customizable they are on the tabletop with a well-placed flaw? You're able to play a number of different bloodlines, all while playing one clan. For me personally, I've always been a fan of a good necromancer, and find them interesting to play using the Oblivion ceremonies of summoning spirits and zombies for that itch. Though I'm mostly a storyteller or GM within vampire games, they also feel like interesting villains, but could have interesting twists and deeper stories rather than your stereotypical evil necromancer. That is all that I have for now, but in the meantime, let me know your thoughts as I'd love to hear them. Let me know if I missed any details, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to stay up to date on future videos, some being Let's Plays, some being these lore, theory, and discussion videos that will be posted at least once a week. Don't be afraid to let me know some other subjects you'd be interested in either, and hopefully, I see you all in the next video. See you then.